we had a baby soon afterward, because your mom was born in March. And so I think the cat stayed in Los Angeles with your great-grandma.
Oh.
Because she said it was dangerous to have a cat,
And
because
a
they could
baby.
smother a baby.
And then
Anyway, so I went in, and there was when I was in the military, there was a group of us. I said there was 35, and like I did surgery and in root canals. So I extracted teeth. I first of all, I did diagnosis. So I took what they call sick call in the military. So if anybody's got, in this case, a toothache, they came to the dental clinic. And so every day there were about 20 or 30 guys sitting in chairs in the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd have to take them all in one at a time and examine them. And I had a couple of chairs and a very efficient dental assistant. And we would assign them to somebody else. If they needed a filling, we'd have somebody else do it. And so
Mm-hmm.
And then we would do, if they needed extractions, we would do those in the afternoon, or root canals. And so that's where I really learned to do surgery and root canals, was in the military.
So then you came back.
So I came back to Palo Alto, and the specialty of doing root canals was sort of new.
Oh.
And so I went into a group practice. It's called the Palo Alto Dental Group. It's on Byron Street. And that was a really big dental group for that time, because dentists can practice alone, they don't have to, it's not like physicians, they have to have a hospital to work out of, but dentists don't, so they're not in big groups like in physicians. So anyway, that was how I got started, was with the Alto Dental Group. But they didn't have anybody doing root canals, and so or surgery, so I did some general dentistry for 3 or 4 years, but I did a lot of root canals, and until there was nobody in Palo Alto doing root canals.
You were the only one?
And so so I was the first endodontist in Palo Alto.
Oh.
And there's probably 8 of them now.
Only 8?
There was a lot of them.
Oh.
Anyway, so there again, I made the best of an opportunity. If an opportunity's there. So I went all over the country. I went back to the University of Pennsylvania and some other places where I studied for a week or 2 at a time, and to try to get better at this. And then I started teaching at the University of Pacific Dental School. There's 2 dental schools in San Francisco, and I taught at the University of Pacific for 12 years, I think, and then I eventually taught at the University of California too.
And then was Omi working when you first started?
Well, when she had a baby, she
go back.
didn't work, but after, she worked until Christian was 4 or 5 years old, I think. We had a babysitter that would come in, I think we took your mom and Christian to a babysitter, and she worked as a dental hygienist. Only did.
Oh, so, and then didn't Mom sometimes help you?
Years later, when she was
older.
she was in high school. She was
She was your
and-
assistant.
right. And by the time she was a senior in high school, I think she wanted to be a physician. And then she had an unfortunate illness her freshman year in college. Right. Well, she had infectious mononucleosis. Was the disease that she had, and she had a high temperature. Anyway, it ended up in her eye, her sinus. Not her eye, but her sinus.
Oh, okay, yeah.
She had a potpourri of infection there, which is, potpourri means all kinds.
Was it nice having her close?
Well, we made it, Omi and Joy have always been close, and I said, Joy could go to Stanford if she wanted to, but there had to be a deal that she couldn't come home without calling us, and we couldn't go see her without calling her. And you get in college and you're so busy, you don't have time to.
So did you visit her that much or not very much?
No.
No?
Well, we did, because she got
Because you got sick.
sick, and she had to come home. She came home for a week or something, and then she got well enough to go back to school, and then the next day they put her in the hospital. And anyway.
And did you live in this house at that point? Or?
No, we lived but when your mom was about 3 years old, it was before Christian was born, so maybe she was 2.
Mhm.
And the second year, maybe we were in Palo Alto. We bought a house, and it was on Walter Hayes Drive. Do you know where that is?
I think so.
It's over by Duveneck.
Oh, yeah.
Where Duveneck School is.
Yeah.
It's over there. And so we bought a house, and we lived there when Christian was born, I know. So
Mhm.
I can't remember exactly what year.
Mhm.
We lived there for 13 years.
Mm.
And we've only lived here since 1975,
So like.
or 76, yeah. So we've only lived in 2 different houses. The first year we were in Palo Alto, we lived in an apartment over on Kurtner. Kurtner is, it's near where Christian and Kelly live. It's between El Camino and the park or the railroad tracks. And
So it's over.
There's a street called Ventura, and it's, what is over there? Well, it's near East Meadow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment house.
So that was with only you know me, or was
Your mom was born there when we lived there.
that tight?
What's that?
Was that a tight fit with a 1 bedroom?
Well, we didn't have a lot of furniture when we moved there.
Uh-huh.
We bought a mattress, but we didn't have enough money to buy a frame for it, so it was on the floor.
Okay.
And we had a card table. That was our kitchen table. And I forget what we had. I think we had the card table chairs.
Oh.
These are kitchen chairs. And then Omi didn't want to take hand-me-downs from our families. And so we eventually we saved enough money to buy a sofa.
Oh.
And
That's good.
it was a big sofa, kind of like this, but I mean, not quite so fancy. But it had a flowery print on it, and it was kind of gold. It was like there was gold in the,
Oh wow, that's cool.
or silver.
That
And
looked
after about
fancy.
6 months, all that started falling off.
Oh.
So our first major purchase was not a good one.
Good one. Pretty cheapy.
Well, it wasn't cheap either. It was expensive,
Or did
but
you
it just we didn't know that much about fabrics and so on.
Wore it out.
Yeah.
And then when was mom how old was she when you guys moved to your second house?
Well, your mom was going to Castellano. Well, she was probably 12 when we moved here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was about 12 because she was born before we moved there, and we lived there about 12 years or 13. So she was going into the 6th grade, and Palo Alto changed their school system then from, it was 1 through, I forget. Anyway, there was the middle school went through 9th grade. It was 7, 8, 9, and they dropped it down 6, 7, 8. That's what they did.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a lot of confusion, as you can imagine, for the parents not knowing when their kids were going to go to school. So that's why Joy ended up in Castellano. So I think we moved here about the time that Joy started Castellano in the 6th grade. And Christian was he went to Walter Hayes in the 4th grade, I think.
Uh-huh.
And he'd gone to Duveneck before,
Uh-huh.
and it was called Green Gables in those days, and it was he always had structured teachers that made you sit up straight in your chair and do everything just right.
Oh.
And so he thrives well in that kind of environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the 4th grade, he had this teacher that was very relaxed about teaching.
Oh.
And if you want to go lay on the floor and draw your pictures looking into the ceiling, that was okay. And it just, he couldn't handle it.
Oh.
And so there was a school in Midtown, Hoover. It was called
Oh.
Hoover School. Well, I don't think it's there. I don't think it's there anymore. But that's where it was. Where isn't there a ballpark? Hoover Ballpark, isn't
Yeah.
it? Well, it was next to that.
Hmm.
There's apartments there now, but it
Yeah.
was a school. And so Christian in the 5th, 6th grade went to Hoover, and he'd ride his bike from here down to there. And I told him that he could go there, but I wasn't driving him, so he rode his bike. And he liked that, because that was very structured too. It was reading, writing, arithmetic sort of
So,
thing.
you didn't like Walter Hayes?
No, because
Too free.
that was too free.
And where did he go for out?
So then he went to Jordan because he wanted to do some athletics, and Hoover School didn't have any. They didn't have football and all that stuff. So then he did go to Jordan before he went to Palo. Do you want to take a break?
Sure.
Want to turn it off? And